Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmitry Kuleba says Russia's assault on Ukraine's eastern front is the largest seen in Europe since World War II. He described Russian attacks in the Donbass region as ruthless and called on Western allies to speed up vital deliveries of weapons. Russia claims to have destroyed an ammunition warehouse in eastern Ukraine. The UK's Defence Ministry says Moscow intends to occupy all of the Luhansk region as Russian forces push to encircle key cities in the province. And our international correspondent Annalise Borges joins us now live from the eastern Ukrainian city of Dnipro. So, Annalise, there are reports of an all-out assault by Russian forces to encircle Ukrainian troops there in the east. What more can you tell us about the fighting?
Hi there, Per. Well, the east of Ukraine really seems to have become the focal point of Russia's invasion since Moscow gave up on trying to take the Ukrainian capital last month and decided that they would be shifting the focus of their so-called military operation to, quote-unquote, liberating the Donbass. The east of Ukraine really has seen the fiercest part of this battle over the last month, and it seems to be the case particularly since Russian troops have taken control of Mariupol. Since that happened, there seems to be a renewed effort to break through Ukrainian lines of defense all across the Donbass, especially in cities like Severodonetsk, where Ukrainian troops are said to still be holding ground. But that's not the case in other towns like, for example, Svitlodarsk, but also Popasna, Liman, and some other 20 villages and small towns around that area from where Ukrainian troops are said to have had to retreat. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that the east is now the most difficult front for Ukrainian troops and has said that Moscow forces are actually transforming that area into hell. I went to Popasna, to Avdiivka, and to other towns in the Donbass before the start of this invasion in early days of February. And I remember asking people there whether or not they were concerned about a full-out invasion. Back then, they said they had already been living with war for the past 8 years, a war that the world had all but forgotten, and they felt as though they had already seen a fair share of violence.
Obviously, Ukraine is home to some very difficult scenes, not least in Mariupol that you mentioned there, which is now completely in Russian hands. Today, there are reports of 200 dead bodies being found in the basement of a collapsed apartment building. Annalise, can you tell us what's the situation like there in Mariupol right now?
Well, Per, we're hearing some pretty harrowing accounts of the city of Mariupol from residents who are still stuck there. We understand that they are practically without food, very little clean water, almost no medicine, and very little ways of actually leaving the town. Those who managed to get out of Mariupol have had to go through what they describe as filtration camps, basically interrogation sites that terrify most of the residents there. We spoke to one woman who left Mariupol 2 weeks ago, and she described to us what she went through. She said that she had to wait for some 8 days in her car before being seen by Russian troops, and this is what followed.
The filtration camp consisted of a few tents surrounded by a fence. Those with cars go in one queue, those without a car go in another queue, and they live on the camp. We went through filtration at night. We went in at 11 p.m. and finished at 2 a.m. It's hard to go through this situation. You're on the road, it's hot. What do military guys do? They were rude and put pressure on both me and the child. We were separated from men in different queues. The Russians asked questions about work. They wanted to know the kind of activities me and my husband did. For people whose information didn't add up, there were also difficulties. They asked how we felt about the events happening right now. They asked how we felt about the current authorities and about how we felt about the situation that started in 2014 in Donetsk.
So a very tense situation for those who actually dare to leave Mariupol. The ones that are not that convinced that they should do so say that they are trying to cope as best they can. We spoke to a few residents who said Mariupol has changed, not only because it is virtually all completely destroyed, but also because the signs, the road signs, are now all in Russian, and because they are being asked to go and see the new authorities in power in the city and re-register their property or face being evicted from their homes.